Welcome everyone to the Heads of Finance session of the 2025 MUSA by-election debates. Quick introduction here, I'm Bliss, the returning officer and the 2025 MUSA by-election debates moderator. We have Janani and Baktawar here, both candidates running in a pair for Heads of Finance, and we also have Ying Shen here, the 2024 Heads of Finance. All right, before we begin the session, we'll start with an introduction of the debate agenda and the people present here today, which we have done, proceeding with a 5 minutes opening statement by both candidates, a 20-minute Q&A session by Ying Xuan, and a 20-minute Q&A session by the students. So students, if you would like to ask any questions, feel free to use the YouTube chat box. We will address your questions accordingly. And we will end with the closing statement for 5 minutes. All right, so without further ado, Janani and Baktawar can start with your opening statement.
All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Buktawer, and I'm an Year 2 Sem 2 student from School of Business. I'm currently majoring in econometrics and finance.
And I'm Jeremy, also a Year 2 Semester 2 student from School of Business, and I'm majoring in Banking and Finance along with International Business Management.
As our studies and experiences align, we have decided to run together for the position of Head of Finance. Since the beginning of our time at Monash, we have built a really strong working relationship and have come to understand how well we complement each other.
Our relevant experiences comes from our active participation in MUSA and CNS. As the treasurer of the Monash Indian Cultural Society since 2024, I've handled budgets for large-scale events and learned how to work within Monash's finance framework while supporting an active student body.
And I have served as vice treasurer for both MUIG and the Netball Club, as well as treasurer for Monash Cup. These roles taught me how to balance structure and flexibility, especially when dealing with tight deadlines. And for the past 4 months, we have been serving as interim heads of finance. We have gained first-hand experience in managing the department efficiently and effectively. This role has been a learning curve in the best way, immersing us in the day-to-day operations of MUSA, helping us understand department-specific challenges, and giving us a real-time view of how the finance system works behind the scenes. Moving on to our visions and plans for the year 2025, our manifesto focuses on practical improvements to MUSA's financial processes. If elected for 2025, our priority will be making things more efficient, easier to assess, and transparent for all students and clubs. As strengthening transparency is one of our core initiatives this year, we aim to achieve this by prioritizing open communication and clarity with all treasurers by keeping them updated on Monash's procedures and financial matters. We're also in constant communication with Monash, Finance, and Student Life to ensure that all information shared is accurate, aligned with university standards, and reflective of the latest procedures. Whenever finance communicates changes to us, we make sure to create guideline documents that include potential frequently asked questions based on what departments might ask. Any new or unique queries raised during discussions will be added and updated in our FAQ section after each meeting. We have already implemented this vision by establishing a Telegram group for all treasurers to ensure faster, smoother, and more efficient communication. This platform allows us to instantly share important updates, including changes in financial procedures, Monash policies, and treasury-related matters. It keeps treasurers informed about meetings, deadlines, and fund request approvals and seek clarifications.
So our second manifesto is accountability and fairness. So financial decisions in MUSA need to be grounded in integrity, not bias. So we understand that as finance heads, we're not just budget approvers, we are gatekeepers of student funds, which means every decision has to be accountable. So we've been reviewing budgets with a clear checklist based on precedent, event scale, club capacity, and fund availability. And by sticking to this objective criteria, and offering justifications for every rejection or cut. We've ensured that even when a budget is reduced, the treasurer understands why. So this transparency makes it easier to maintain trust between us and the student body. Our next manifesto is efficiency and accessibility. So fund delays are a common issue in MUSA, but when many delays stem from confusion or incomplete documentation and not bureaucracy. That's why we've implemented a structured timeline. Once a request is added to the fund tracker, our subcoms have 48 hours to rename and clean up the files. And once verified, the BP is submitted on Notion for presidential approval. This means most requests are cleared internally with than 60 hours. We also cross-check with Monash Finance's system so we can keep treasurers updated on when payments will be processed. Our goal here is not just to speed up, but predictability so clubs can plan with confidence. We have also updated the Finance Google Drive to house the latest forms, templates, and guides. This reduces back and forth and allows anyone, whether they're new or experienced, to submit without stress.
Our next manifesto is providing financial support. Many treasurers face challenges in understanding MUSA's financial system. To ensure they have the necessary knowledge and resources, we aim to provide financial support by conducting training sessions and workshops to guide treasurers on budgeting, fund requests, and compliance with Monash financial regulations as needed. While we have already conducted a comprehensive onboarding session last month already, we will continue providing support whenever required. We have developed a step by step finance handbook that simplifies financial processes, ensuring treasurers can easily navigate budget allocations and fund requests and financial documentation. This handbook serves as a go to reference for all financial inquiries, reducing their confusion and enhancing our efficiency. We have also created finance guidelines and handbooks for our subcommittee members to refer to, helping them understand the rules better and complete tasks more efficiently.
So our final manifesto is budget allocation. We believe budget allocation should be rooted in fairness and actual need, not based on popularity or politics. So every department and club should receive funding based on the scale, impact, and feasibility of their initiatives. So to achieve this, we will be implementing a standardized evaluation matrix to assess budget requests objectively, and we would also encourage clubs to justify their proposed budgets with breakdowns and clear outcomes by sending it to the respective finance directors, and ensure smaller or lesser known clubs aren't left out and receive equal opportunity to access funds for meaningful events. We'll also be fully transparent about how budgets are allocated and provide feedback for rejected or reduced requests so no one is left confused or sidelined.
So why vote for us? Because we've already been doing the work. As interim heads of finance, we've gained real experience in handling fund requests, solving issues, and supporting treasurers. We know the system, we know what needs to be improved, and we have practical plans to make those changes. With us, you're voting for a team that's prepared, reliable, and committed to making finance easier for everyone. Over the past few months, we have been working closely together to improve MUSA's finance processes, making them more efficient, accessible, and easier to manage for everyone involved. After 4 months in the interim role, we have developed a strong understanding of how the system works and where improvements are needed. Our plans for 2025 are shaped by this first-hand experience. We know what's effective and, more importantly, where things can be better. That's why our focus is on refining processes, improving communication, and offering clear support for students, clubs, and treasurers. From managing various types of fund requests to maintaining communication with different departments and handling unexpected challenges, we have seen how things play out on the ground, and we've learned how to handle them effectively. This experience has equipped us with the skills and confidence to take on the role fully. And thank you once again for your time and support. We hope to earn your vote and continue to build a stronger, more transparent finance department for MUSA in 2025.
Okay, thank you for your opening statement. We shall now invite Yingxuan for the OB Q&A session.
Hello, everyone. Now, my first question is, given that MUSA operates on an annual budget, unexpected expenses can arise throughout the year. How would you ensure financial stability while still supporting initiatives and events that may not have been initially budgeted for?
Can we take time to discuss this among ourselves?
You can take around 10 seconds.
All right.
If you're ready, anytime.
Okay, so I'll be answering the question as it's related to budget. So far, what we have decided is we have planned in a way that we will, uh, we have already pre-planned in a way that in case students do go over their expected budget, we have buffer funds, we have funds that are allocated in other departments that could be utilized on behalf. But our first step would be reassessing all the existing commitments, and we would distinguish based on the importance and whether if it's an essential spending or a non-essential spending, and whether the events which or initiatives that they have is a high impact or something that's time sensitive and need to be prioritized. So we'll first assess based on that. We will also make sure we communicate with the president and the vice president accordingly to get their inputs. We also have a budget committee that consists of the finance directors and the MUSA treasurer and the CNS treasurer. So we would first take in all the inputs of everyone's opinions, and then we will try initiating the event to where we can gain a surplus or somehow ask other departments to come up with events where we can get more revenue and assess those funds to our expenses. At the end of the day, our goal is to respond calmly and act quickly as possible and communicate with everyone, and so that no one is like left in the dark. And we would make the final decision, but it's also based on the student body's input.
Okay, thank you. Now on to my second question. If a large-scale event, for example, Monash Ball, exceeds its allocated budget due to unforeseen costs, what steps would you take to manage the situation while keeping MUSA's overall financial health in check?
Okay, can we take 10 seconds to discuss this?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so I know that Monash Ball is a flagship event. So our first step would be to conduct an immediate review of where the budget breakdown alongside with the activities department's treasurer. We would identify exactly where and why the overspending occurred, whether it was due to last minute vendor changes or inflation maybe, or anything that's been missed out and that was initially pre-budgeted. So obviously we uh, could not see these unforeseen costs. So we would ideally note these changes down and uh, make sure that the next upcoming activities department is well as known for what happened. But we also believe in proactive planning. So ideally, large-scale events should include a buffer or any contingency margin in their budgets. So however, in case of an overrun, we would either assess whether the exceeded amount is justifiable and if any parts of the event can be scaled down without affecting the overall student experience. But if the overspend has already occurred, we would check if the department has any remaining budget that can be reallocated. If not, we would escalate this matter to Monash Finance or Student Life to see what their possible options are to support us financially. but in extreme cases, we may have to move towards to reallocating funds internally within MUSA. That means that we would discuss with other departments if they're willing to allocate their funds to Monash Ball. And we would also ensure full transparency, as it's also one of our manifestos, with departments that may be affected in the run. And only if we are confident if the other departments, the budgets that are reallocated will not affect their upcoming plans. So regardless of how the outcome is, we will use this incident as a learning opportunity for the upcoming 2026 MUSA people. So yeah, pretty much that's it. We would improve on vendor communication and reviewing quotes more critically and ensure that the activities treasurers have, factored in the realistic buffers for every major event.
Thank you for your answer. Moving on to my third question. How would you ensure transparency and accountability in processing funds for student events while preventing potential mismanagement or inefficiencies?
Could you repeat the last part of your question, please?
I'll repeat the whole thing.
Okay.
How would you ensure transparency and accountability in processing funds for student events while preventing potential mismanagement or inefficiencies?
I'm so sorry, but like you're lagging for me. I really didn't get the question.
Am I lagging? Give me a second.
Maybe it's my internet. I just connected to a different one. Could you repeat?
All right, sure. So, how would you ensure transparency and accountability in processing funds for student events while preventing potential mismanagement or inefficiencies?
All right, can we have 10 seconds to discuss?
Yeah, sure.
All right, thanks.
Okay, so to prioritize transparency and accountability at every stage of the fund request, we want to ensure, we have already ensured that we have implemented systems that, clearly leave a trail of whatever we have done so far. So whether it is approving the fund request and giving proper updates. And we have also have had trackers in our finance system folder where even if the day that I have submitted a PR request, I would put the date, the requisition date, when it will be released, all of that. Everything is on black and white paper. So if the students are always, they would come back to us saying, oh, why hasn't this, been informed to us? We would say that, okay, it's already been implemented and it's already transparent to you guys. So it's about how you would take these systems and how you would navigate through it yourselves. And we would also communicate directly with the treasurers at each stage, whether it's checking if the documents meet compliance or, updating them on their approval status. So this direct communication helps, reduce delays by incomplete paperwork or any misunderstanding.
And an example of us implementing was that like there were like a few changes that was proposed by the managed finance system. So a few weeks ago, we held a meeting with the president, department heads, and the treasurers to brief them of the changes and to explain how these changes would be implemented. So we like wanted to maintain transparency every step of the way, and we're also like preparing a handbook and a guideline of that meeting, whatever was discussed to maintain that transparency.
Yeah, we also track every cent that goes in and out of the department. So when a request is approved, it is recorded and matched against the club's or the department's remaining budget. We have analysts who would update it based on every quarter. And if anything seems off, we would address it immediately to the budget committee or the respective treasurers, department treasurers for clarification. And we believe that transparency also means being open about limitations. So if a request is delayed due to any external factor like student life delaying it or managed finance delaying it, we make sure that it's communicated honestly and promptly. I hope that answers your question.
Right, thanks. I have a few more questions that are left by Ezian, my partner. So the first one being, you have mentioned financial support for clubs in your manifesto. Pulling out your manifesto, financial support for clubs is relating to simplifying reimbursement and vendor payments for smoother operations. So her question is, how are you going to simplify the reimbursement process? And how do you think the current reimbursements and vendor payments process could be improved?
Okay, we'll take 10 seconds to discuss.
Okay, so regarding reimbursements, cash reimbursements, I'll be answering, and regarding vendor payments, Octavia will be answering. So first, I have already created uh, a more efficient guidelines for acceptable receipts and corrected formats and any common mistakes to avoid from what Easian has already provided. There were times where the treasurers were confused on those guidelines, and we have made it even more simplified as possible. And we have also asked them to reach out to us personally through Telegram or through WhatsApp or even email us. We normally prefer emails, and we would get back to them in at least 3 to 4 hours and clarify their doubts. Uh, Secondly, we are also working with Monash Finance to clarify such gray areas like what counts as a valid claim or what might trigger as a rejection. So, treasurers like myself for clubs and even as finance director, we don't get stuck in the whole back and forth loops. I've also asked every department, whether it's under clubs and societies or whether it's under MUS, to submit their physical receipts to the office in case it was also implemented by Monash Finance itself. We are still working on uh, confirming it and making that happen. But otherwise, we have asked them to create a folder in their particular event folder and submit the receipts, renaming according to their folio. So instead of me contacting them personally asking, can I get a clearer picture of the receipt because it's not visibly shown for the Monash Finance people on their Excel, I can directly access the receipt and download it and then send it to them so that there's no further delay. And we also personally make ourselves available to, review the reimbursement documents before they're submitted. So after my auditors go through all of the SOPs that I've given them, I would also personally check it and flag any errors early and, reduce the risk of rejections. So that's why I've also asked departments to submit their BPs beforehand so that their EMS also does not get rejected. And if needed, we also guide the treasurers one-on-one, especially if they're new or unsure. And additionally, we have pushed for consistent naming conventions and better file organization, which helps us process things a bit faster and ensure that nothing gets missed or delayed in the system.
For PRPO, it's still an ongoing discussion with the MUSA finance system. But right now, they don't want students to be handling cash, right? So they're pushing everyone to fill in fund requests for PRPO, even for like smaller purchases, right? So what I will be proposing to the Manage Finance system is that create a small expense exception policy for items below a certain threshold and allow like direct reimbursement with just receipt, description, and finance team approval. So like they don't get to handle cash, but like they're still being reimbursed by PRPO. Furthermore, there are some vendors that are not registered, right? And the Manage Finance system still wants to deal with them, right? And it's unrealistic to get full documentation. So an improvement would be to introduce a non-vendor form template where the buyer just declares basic details, what was bought, why, and the cost, and accept official receipts and the student declaration as a substitute for invoice and the DO. That's the current changes that I will be proposing to the Manage Finance system based on what they want from us. The need to like not let the students handle cash for PRPO. I hope that answers your question.
So for PRPO, right, my question is, how do you think the current uh vendor payment process could be improved? I don't think that
Okay,
question.
I feel like the process itself is way too long. And sometimes, like the last few requests that I put in, right, there were like heads reaching out to me being like, why is the process so delayed? So I feel like one improvement I would want to make is like how I can figure out how to make these processes faster and how they can be like a smaller chain of communication because sometimes it's there are delays from like our side, not our side, but there's delay from the Minas system side, which and then there are like vendors reaching out to them. So I feel like that would be something that I would want to improve, the chain of communication, and everything else. I feel like I love how organized the entire system is and all the documentation required, and I wouldn't want to change much except for the approvals and how long it takes to get approved.
Mm. But that's in regards to Monash Finance side, right? So how would you improve their side of things?
So right now, I think that like constant emailing and constant rechecking what is something that we're implementing right now. For example, like we just had a request and it was delayed because I forgot to like double check with the Monash finance system. And if I had checked with them, the payment would have made faster because there was a missing document from one of the department side. And because of that, the entire process was very delayed and this wasn't informed. So I feel like one thing that I extracted out of that situation was that constant reassuring and constant rechecking with the Monash finance system regarding these requests always like is more efficient. It keeps like the request moving and there are no delays as long as like we're always checking with them that it has this been approved, has this process been reached. So like constant and better communication with them regarding stuff with PRPO.
Okay, thank you. And I have two more questions from Izian. The final two, I'll start with the first one. We happened to come across a question from one of the current, which is the 2025 office bearers, that the PRPO process currently requires a maximum of 20K ringgit for a single quotation. And she gave an example, which is if the total sum of purchase is 50K, then they'll need to prepare 3 quotations in total because 20K for 2 quotations and the final 5, the
Yes.
final 10 for the last one. Now, how could you could you explain why is this integrated to replace the previous policies? And how will the new policy effectively smoothen the current PRPO procedures?
Okay, so when the amount requested is more than 20,000, right? It's a really big amount and we just want to like compare how like like for example, some vendors are more expensive than the others, right? So we just want to compare if you're like choosing the more suitable option out of the three. So that's why like 3 quotations are required when the amount is more than 20,000. So we can like choose the best vendor out of all to go ahead with our purchase request.
Um,
And I think this was implemented last year as well. I don't think it's a new policy, right?
I'm not sure if you misunderstood because last year what we did was if your quotation is more than 20K,
Yeah.
then you'll need 3 quotations in total to compare the prices. But we didn't say that we're going to split the quotations into 3. Instead, you need to find 3 quotations from 3 different vendors in order to compare the prices and determine which quotations are the most competitive.
Oh, okay. So I think this question came from the publicity officer. The thing was that they submitted a 70,000 ringgit quotation, right? And when I was talking to Manas system about it, they were like, "Is there a way we could like discuss what they want to purchase?" For example, they were thinking that like, okay, so hoodies on one quotation and that other things on another quotation. So because it was a really big amount to get approved, right? So they were like, was it possible if like this quotation could be divided according to the item numbers? Like, do you understand? It's like
Yes.
everything was on one quotation, right? They were like, we want to choose what we can approve and what we cannot approve. So like the entire request does not get rejected. So I told her like this is still an ongoing discussion with the Manage finance system, and we still need to find a way how to implement it better because they actually did. They were like, is there any way we could like reduce the amount or like things that were being ordered? But I told them that like they want to order it next month. So like they were like, it's fine for right now, but you need to come up with a better system for this kind of quotations. So
Okay.
that's what I meant.
So just to be clear, because from what I've heard is that this is a new policy this year,
I
which is
don't think
implemented.
so because
Not a policy yet, but I will be like after confirming a few things, it will become one with the
and
finance system.
publicity department also mentioned that they have prepared the VP based on 2023's VP to compare the prices between 2 or 3 different vendors. So this is something that's been ongoing for years, and we haven't like implemented any changes to the BP template ourselves.
Okay, so all right, so I'll leave it to you to discuss this with Monash Finance as well as the office bearer in question. The last one, the last question from Izian is, based on your proposed manifesto, what are the aspects pertaining to the current financial policies and practices that you think can be enhanced to ensure smooth financial operations for the whole fiscal year?
Okay, we'll take 10 seconds to discuss this.
So if I'm not mistaken, you're asking based on our proposed manifesto, like what are the aspects that cover financial processes across the whole fiscal year? Is that what you kind of asked?
So the question is, what are the aspects pertaining to the current financial policies and practices that you think can be enhanced and ensure smooth financial operations for the whole fiscal year, based on your manifesto?
Okay. So, as mentioned in our manifesto, that we designed it to not just address like isolated improvements, but to support the entire financial cycle. So that is from budget planning and funding requests, approvals to reimbursements, and we'll be accountable for the whole fiscal year. So one thing that I would suggest is that we pre-plan every event. We have already implemented it in one of our meetings few weeks back to the OBs. We pre-budget planning and allocation for each and every event, and that will be sent to me where I will communicate with my analysts, and they will compare it with the budgets and give me any improvements, or if it's saying like if it's fair justification to ensure like transparency from the start and prevent any under or over budgeting. We also want to facilitate like open meetings, which is conduct like informal OB overviews every once or whenever there's a situation that arises with each department or club treasurers before like budget submission to like clarify the whole scope and the feasibility of the expectations. And we also mentioned in our manifesto that we have created an efficient timeline-based fund request system where subcons rename files and get them verified within 48 hours. So internal approvals happen within 60 hours. That is, we send the links instead of send the BP and FRF links to the president through a Notion system that he has designed, where we assign a certain deadline for him and he will meet it and get the VP and FR signed instead of sending it weekly once to him personally on a WhatsApp chat. And we also have a finance telegram group and a handbook which serve as like a real-time guide during this stage. So to reduce any miscommunication and ensure that, all the departments don't make any preventable errors. And we also provide active support for either it's cash reimbursement or even cash or even for PRPO and vendor quotations, especially for large events that require stricter documentation. We also want to implement quarterly and mid-year finance divisional budget checking, where we were planning to implement a ledger system for the MUSA departments as well for each and every department so that we have a divisional budget on our own that our analysts check based on whatever is approved and rejected in the fund tracker. But we also want to implement that each department keep track of their actual and budgeted expense. So while comparing, we make sure that their ledger aligns with our divisional budget ledger as well. This is still under discussion. I've made a proposal which we will be presenting it to the budget committee in the upcoming weeks and will be implemented by the start of semester 2. So that, when we prepare the quarterly or mid-year and final year reports by the analysts, we ensure that, it's cross-checked and double-checked from every department.
So can you also clarify what has improved in compared to the previous year? So you mentioned that pre-planning every event, facilitating meetings, and the finance telegram group, like all these are something that we've already implemented in previous years, even before us. So what's the difference?
I understand, it was implemented during the previous years, but when it came to the end of the year, our current MUSA finance department struggled to get the actual expenses for 2024. We only got the actual expenses for 2023, and we had to request the current MUSA 2025 OBs to request their previous OBs about their actual expenses. So when we did the calculation, and there was also an overspending last year, so to prevent all of that, we want to make sure that whatever you guys have implemented, which is perfectly fine, we just strictly adhere to it this year. And we also communicate everything transparently to student life directly. So when it comes to even remitting revenues, we ask the departments to remit it first and then submit for CR and wait through the whole CR timeline to get their funds back. And there has been certain delays, which we have paused for, the CR requests have been paused for a week so that we communicated efficiently with Monash Finance to see how we can, speed up the process as well. So whatever you guys have done during 2023 or 2024, it was perfectly fine, but it didn't really help us when we were budgeting for 2025 when the actual expenses weren't provided. So that's why we said that we will be providing a quarterly and mid-year, and like for each semester, we want to make sure that all of the budget that has been spent be transparent to every department so that they know what's happening. And that's when we cross-check between their ledgers and our whatever we have prepared. And we would also communicate with finance whenever we have remitted a revenue. We will make sure that they're also keeping track of it while I'm also keeping track of it. So everything has been detailedly mentioned in the finance systems that we have provided in the Google Drive. So if any department wants to check, they can also go ahead and check it themselves. We also want to make sure that none of the departments, hold their revenue, and everything should be remitted as soon as the event has been over. So my auditors will go through it. They will check. We also ask them to add like proof of payments, the receipts, whatever that they have gotten, make sure that they disclose everything, and they also work based on their balances as of now. So everything has been detailedly checked at least 3, 4 times before we finally, you know, communicate with Monash Finance based on this.
Okay. Thank you. That's all from my side.
Okay.
All right, thank you everyone for the Q&A session. Now we will move on to answering some questions from the public. To everyone watching, if you have any questions, feel free to drop it in the YouTube chat. Currently, we don't have any questions at the moment, but we will wait for maybe 2 or 3 minutes. In the meantime, Janani, Tawa, or Yingxuan, if you guys have any other questions for each other, or you would like to follow up with any of the policies mentioned, feel free to do so. And we will wait maybe for 2 minutes.
Actually, Ian Shan, I do have a question. For example, this year, right, the Monash finance system is really emphasizing on like students and the heads not handling cash on their own at all, right? So they're like really emphasizing on them to like fund requests, PRPO, for even like tiny requests, right? And they mentioned like local grocery stores like Speed Mart and 7-Eleven and Jaya Grocer. And to me, like I don't really understand how that could be implemented. Because I
Um,
understand if they're like talking about like tiny amounts from like tiny vendors, that's understandable, okay? But I just don't understand how this applies to like local grocery stores.
yes, I understand your question. I already replied you
Oh,
in the Telegram message that you sent, right? So it's a meeting between you and finance as well as, I don't know, maybe the president. So I think it would not be appropriate for me to answer this question based on my thoughts because I've never encountered them speaking of such because it would be,
okay.
yeah. So I think it's best to just communicate with them yourselves. And during the meeting, you should ask questions when something that you kind of have doubts on from their requirements. Maybe you think this requirement is not, as you said, maybe it's not appropriate, then you should ask questions during the meeting as well to clarify on your thoughts. So that's what I think.
Okay. Were there any shortcomings last year regarding PRPO that you would want us to deal with this year?
Um, for now, no, not really.
All right, thank you.
All right, unfortunately, we still don't have any questions from the public for now. So once again, to confirm, Yingxuan, do you have any follow-ups for Baktawa and Janani?
For now, I don't think so. Let me like ask my partner. Give me a
Sure,
second.
sure. While Ancient does that, maybe I can go by what's happening for the by-elections. So tomorrow we will have 2 debate sessions. One debate session for MUIS Media at 5:30 p.m. and one more for MUIS Engagement at 6:30 p.m. So students, if you are interested to know about the candidates' manifesto and their policies, feel free to drop by the MUSA official page YouTube channel. And voting starts on 16 April at 9 a.m. in the morning, and it ends on 18 April at 9 p.m. at night. All right.
Okay, so got clarification. There's no other questions from our side.
All right, thank you. If there are no questions, then the candidates, you may proceed with your closing statement.
Okay. So thank you all for listening us today, and thank you, Yingshen and Izin, for asking questions. And I hope we have answered them accordingly. And yeah, we are not here to make like huge and big promises. We are here because we've already started doing the work. And the past few months as interim heads of finance have like taught us more than any handbook could. And yeah, we've made mistakes, we have fixed them, we have learned quickly, and we have also improved faster. What sets us apart is that we have been familiarized with the system inside and out and just not on paper. But from, having sat through different like urgent approvals and late night budget reviews, and I think so one-to-many like notion glitches as well, we know how clubs operate and we understand what the treasurers need, what MUSA needs, and we have so far experienced the challenges from finance at every angle, and we're also looking forward to mostly we care and we care about the people who stay up trying to submit their fund requests on time, and we care about the small clubs that deserve the same support as the big ones. We also care about making this process way less confusing than it is, way less frustrating, and more empowering for everyone to be enrolled. So to whoever is watching or will be watching later on, if you choose us, you're choosing two people who have already like are in knee deep situation in this system, and we are ready to keep things moving, keep things fair, and make the finance department that feels, approachable and reliable again. So thank you once again, and we hope we earn your trust and your vote.
All right. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Janani. Thank you, Tower. And also thank you, Yingshen. Goodbye, everyone. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.